Call the meeting order. Rise to the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Minutes of the previous meeting.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any additions or corrections? Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. Bills. With the addition of the bills that were on our desk.
There's some highway ones on that list too, I don't know if you wanna take care of them now or.
On the additional list, or,
I'm
no, they're not on there.
not sure which list, we probably got different lists, like more steel coat was a big one.
Oh yeah, that was on the regular highway bill.
And the road works for the mag water was 12,000.
Yeah, we don't have that one on there.
12,307.30.
What was that one?
That was the mag water that we put on.
12,000.
Yeah. And then True North Steel, was that one on there?
Yeah, that's on for 18 or 45,000.
Yeah.
That's the three you read then?
Yeah.
The two of them are on there. I don't know. The one must have gotten this over. Okay. Any questions on the bill?
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion.
This election bill, that's part of the bill, so.
We still don't have anything from the journal. Hopefully this week.
Is that about normal? Close?
Actually, it's less, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't think last couple elections we've seen a breakout, so it's kind of interesting to see what the actual cost of running the election is.
Yeah.
Like this?
Yeah, it's gonna
It's
need.
actually
Yeah, I
less.
think you're right, Alan.
Because I think the last time it was like 28,000. We saved a little bit by doing the pre-filled applications instead of going through a printer.
Might save you guys time too.
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the bills. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Britt,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Lightfoot.
Aye. Motion carries. Financial reports. Anything interesting? I
We,
didn't see anything interesting.
it was the West Dike one. Let me look. There was a glitch in the computer, so it shows that it's in the red, but numbers didn't get transferred right, so,
This is on the liability report.
yeah, but it's now fixed. So, otherwise we're good.
Okay,
Move to approve the financial report. Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the financial report. Further discussion on that. Seeing none. Roll call please.
Brown,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brett,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Lightfoot.
Aye. Motion carries. Treasurer's checks.
Move to approve. Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the treasurer's checks. Not too much this month. Further discussion on that or questions? Seeing none, roll call again please.
Olson,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brett,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Lightfoot.
Aye. Motion carries. Agenda, does anybody have anything to add? Move to approve. Okay, for a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
In a second. The only thing I would add is, not an addition, but being everyone, that is going to be budgeting there, is it okay if we move Brenda up to the beginning? She's nice enough to be here right away, so she doesn't have to sit there for all the budgeting. Okay. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries and the agenda is approved. And we'll start with Brenda then. Good morning.
Okay. We may need to start with Nate, and I have some slides for you.
Oh, my goodness.
Let's see if this is going to come. I need the,
There it is, right there.
I walked right past it. Okay? So I don't think that's going to work.
No slides.
Now I need to make your agenda smaller. That's what I'm gonna try to do. You think I got it on there?
No, turn over right there.
There you are.
Click it. There you
Oh,
go.
look at
Look at that.
that. Okay. This is, and this will be even better now, we can get that focused again and get it to go into the slideshow format. What do you
Quick
think?
slideshow.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to figure out. if
There's
that's
a
the
slide.
right
Oh,
one.
right up there.
Just gonna get closer.
Oh, right there. There you go, click it. There you go, you're highlighted. Okay, from beginning. There you go.
Oh, thank you. Okay, this is our Annie's project class for 2018. Minus one, we had a class of 9. I mentioned this on an earlier presentation. I'd done so, but I'd come back since they all graduated. This is a very intense course. It's about 18 hours. We meet 3 times and look over several different factors involved in farming and ranching. Okay, so now what do you suppose we're gonna do for advance?
Okay, just
We
hit-
did. Oh, we did. So, okay.
There you go.
So we do a pre and a post survey to see what changes, not just what they've learned, but what changes they've made in their farm and ranch operations. One of the initiatives that the last North Dakota legislature gave to all of higher ed was to show changes for impact. Not just, did you learn something? Did you have a nice time? Did you like the coffee? But on post-survey results to see what they have done. And on our post-survey results from these 9 participants, we found that the majority of them have completed a family budget. They've either created, never had one, or updated what they did have of their estate plan, set up health care and power of attorney plans. Several of them went through and looked at calculating costs of production, whether that be crops or livestock. Almost everyone went back and reviewed insurance policies and then updated those insurance policies. Marketing is bolded because though several of them said that they made some changes in how they marketed, we also found that this was the area where they really wanted to learn more about it. So, some very good impacts from that class. I was very pleased to be able to work with Caitlin Hahn, who is at Nelson County, Lindy Berg at Towner County, in putting this together. So it takes a little bit of time to set up all the speakers. Any questions about Annie's project? There were 5 held across the state this past winter, spring. So we were thrilled to be able to put one together in Devil's Lake. And then we need to talk about 4-H Achievement Days. Okay, several of you were able to be at one part or another of it. This is our beginning interview sessions that happen on Wednesday morning in the Memorial Building. And you can see we have a long line of judges. Eva Olson is the second one down. And they're not very clear, but I'm particularly proud of the 2 young ladies at the end who are doing judging for us, because they are past 4-H members. And they contacted me and said, we had such a good time, and now we graduated, can we judge? Oh, it's wonderful when they believe that's that important to them. The 4-Hers bring their items up, discuss it with the judge. That's Evan Marcus did, by the way, from Farm Credit Services, and is speaking to that 4-H member. And then eventually grand champions are selected. We are fortunate to have great depth of plaque sponsors, so we're able to present some very nice plaques to the 4-H members. Those often show up at graduation open houses, and everyone gets their photo taken with their plaque. This particular exhibit I needed to explain several times over Achievement Days to the public that was walking through, because those are not hair bows for Mart's hair, okay? Why are they so large, I kept being asked. They're called rollers, and they're for her horse's mane. We have lots of other activities happening, including a speech contest. This is a brother-sister duo doing a back and forth speech, a combo speech. We also have some judging contests. These are winners of what we call consumer choices judging contests, where they look at some different situations and make choices as to what they would select. And we have our preteen, our younger grand champion winner in the front, and then that's a brother-sister duo who managed to tie for grand champion. No matter how many classes we had, they still ended up tied. So eventually we said, okay, we're done, you're tied. And then I know that several of you were out at Achievement Days before the tent company was scaring us and telling us we needed to take the tent down early. With her back to us is Samantha, the extension agent at Pembina County, who does just an outstanding job of judging. Inside the tent, this is our welcoming committee. It works out just wonderfully that way. And of course, the focus is on the kids, the little people. So overall, just a wonderful Achievement Days, great participation from the 4-H members. I saw no tears during the entire time, so that's always good. No matter how hot it gets, everyone seems to come together and work on it. Any questions or comments on Achievement Days? Okay. Oh my gosh, look what snuck in. Pictures of the family. This is a family that lives in Minnesota. They're 8.5 hours away. There's another family. That's a family in Kansas. They're 13.5 hours away. And gentlemen, this is only a few hours away from them. It has been an honor and privilege, and Phil and I will be retiring.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yes. Congratulations.
I've submitted my information to NDSU. Phil has submitted his to the credit union, and we will be retiring August 3rd.
Wow.
This is 503 Marion Street, Waterville, Minnesota. We'll be 75 minutes from Justin and Katie, and we'll be about 7 hours from Brandon and Whitney in Kansas.
Wow, nice.
So you will all be greatly missed.
Thank you for your service, Brenda.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And that will be today's report.
Just out of curiosity, Brenda, how many years that extension have you had?
35.
Yeah, I think you probably earned the right to retire if you want.
I started at the Pembina County Fair, Pembina County on Monday, and their fair started on Thursday. And one of the reasons for our timing for this is that I said I would never do that to another extension agent, to another support staff in our office, or to 4-H members. That we would finish all the busy 4-H things in the summer, such as this Achievement Days and the State Fair. And then we would be a little space for someone else to participate.
And Phil, how about you?
But it'll be,
30 plus years?
yeah, well, at the credit union at here now, or financial services actually has been about 25,
Okay.
almost 30, I guess, frankly. And then credit union has been 15.
Well, thank you
So,
both to your
yeah.
service to our community. You guys
Thank
been a
you.
big part of it for a number of years, so thank you. Wish you guys well in your retirement.
Thank you, Jeff.
Go enjoy the lake.
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward
It's like a
to
good
it.
place to enjoy.
Greatly.
Yeah. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you very much.
I kind of a lot of knowledge.
All right.
One part of it is gonna be retiring, so. Okay. Yeah. With that, we'll move on. You okay?
Yeah.
We got it all
You're
up.
thinking about when you can retire, aren't you?
I just kind of, so many moves.
My jaw's still.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was in.
I'll stop there. Okay, Crystal, you get to follow that up.
Okay.
It'll be fun.
I was hoping she was gonna go through a budget, so I know when you guys do this.
Don't worry, we'll help you.
Okay. So I'll just hit on the budget first and then we'll go through the policy changes. Does that work?
I think that's just fine.
Okay. So does everybody have any budget or do I need to go through the numbers?
We have it here in front of us.
Okay.
What page is that?
Stage 3.
Oh, of course. Sorry.
Yeah, it says
It's
it
on
right
your
there.
agenda.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I know, but I just started in the middle of the page. It was-
So the salary for next year, that's with 20 hours going into next year, and then that's with a 2% raise on my hourly rate right now. And the 20 hours I feel is necessary because I am starting to answer a lot of phone calls on my off days, and I don't feel right just leaving them until the next week because I feel like they need to be dealt with and taken care of right away as soon as we can. And there's a lot of things on my to-do list that I haven't been able to touch on because when you have people coming in and out, it's a good thing, but you just don't get to the bigger things and making sure that we're in compliance on things and dealing with different department issues. So I just feel like an extra 8 hours a week would kind of alleviate some of that and be able to get through some more things. The travel expense, that's for me going to 3 different HR conferences. One is the county, one's the state conference, and then I wasn't sure about the big one that the counties have that.
The association.
Association.
Yeah. So I added that in for travel expenses. The miscellaneous employee training, that gives us 4 trainings with having 2 separate times for each one of them trainings, and then a management training in there. And then the training cost for me to go to them 2 HR conventions and then that association one. So that's what I have included in there for my budget.
Okay, do we have any questions? I'll just make a comment that we obviously visited about that moving to the 20 hours thing, and I said we can have that discussion at this level, but budget high, and then we can always move backwards like we always work off of, so. So any questions on the budget recording? Okay, if not, we'll move on to the policies then.
Okay, sounds good. We can start with the vacation benefits policy. The reason for looking at this policy was to get a couple things in there. We wanted to get the days switched to hours in all the policies. And then also we changed how they can take their vacation instead of hour increments. We changed that to a half-hour increment. And then I wanted to make sure to get in there that employees that need to submit the vacation slips, that's kind of a new process and sign off on, so we make sure we're getting accuracy there and making sure everybody's submitting them. So the reason for changing it to 240 hours versus 176 hours for carryover was there isn't very many policies out there with counties anymore that aren't at 240. And I feel as if, we don't have a whole lot of turnover, but the turnover we do have, the better policies we can have with these vacation, sick leave, better position we are to get more applicants and be a better employment agency for these people and to get a better applicant pool. So that's kind of the reasoning in there. The 240 hours does convert over to 30 days. So. And then of course I just changed up some verbiage in it, but nothing that made a major change in it. So, that's the changes with the vacation benefits, and then all those policies, of course, was brought to the department head meetings, and we reviewed them, got their input on them, and then brought to you guys. So. Any questions on that one?
Do we want to approve these one at a time or all together?
I I guess that would be whatever we feel we'd like to do. I mean, if we wanna approve them one by one, I suppose, and then if there's one we have a question on, or one maybe we wanna think about longer, we could just table one of them or something, and then we could approve the other
Sure.
ones. That would be fine, I suppose. The only thing I was gonna say, and on that one, if I'm correct, then the accrual of the vacation hours doesn't change, we're just changing the cap so that you can carry over just a little bit more.
Correct,
So you
yep.
have a little bit more bank, just in case you wanna use it, but you're still accruing at the same time.
And we're going from 176 to 240?
Yes. Yeah, holding 22 days to 30 days. So then if, the only change would be is if, when someone retires, then we would have an extra 8 days of vacation to pay out if they have it banked up.
What was it, 2 months ago, we got hit up with this at the law enforcement center? And they wanted to go to, do you remember what it was?
I don't remember.
They were at 176.
Yeah, it was I wanna say it's off.
210, 12?
It was higher than that, 220? It's either 220 or 240.
That was a substantial increase, that's for sure.
It is.
We should probably have an opportunity to review these and then approve them at the next meeting, and suggest that, so.
If that's how you want to handle it, I think that's fine. Yeah, I don't have a problem if we just want to go through all of them and have an explanation, and then we can table them as a whole and come back to the next meeting. I have no problem handling that way. Okay, well then we'll move on to the next one if that's okay with everyone.
Okay, sounds good. So the next one, the sick leave benefits. This one here, we had, some things that have come up with maternity leave. That's been kind of a topic. And then also, of course, changing the days over to the hours in the policy. And then I wanted to make sure we got clearer reasons for using sick leave, because we would have probably some departments that are doing one thing and another department doing another thing. So I thought some clarification on how employees are using the sick leave was important to put in there. So we changed it just 12 days to 8 hours. There was nothing that changed in there, it was just the days to hours. I also wanted to get a statement in there on workers' comp, because we have had a couple workers' comp claims that we've had the employee be out, and then there was confusion about how we got paid back as a county for giving them vacation and sick leave, and then they're also getting a check from workforce safety. So I thought it was important in there to get how we're gonna get paid back and reimburse their sick leave or vacation balances. So that statement was put in there. And then the next thing is for carryover on sick leave, there is no cap on it now in this policy. So they can carry over as much as they want, or not as much as they want, but it just keeps carrying over their sick leave balance. And then the payout on it, the lump sum would be the 1/6, and then it wouldn't exceed a 1 month salary for a payout if they terminate or retire or so.
Okay, any questions on that one? Okay, so we'll move on to bereavement leave.
Okay, now this one's come up also on the number of days that we have for an employee to take off for funeral leave. So we changed that to 40 hours. A lot of counties are right around the 32 to 40 hours in their policies, and when you think about how long a funeral does actually take for an employee, an extra couple of days is probably a good thing for an employee, because we don't really want them back here as they're going through that grieving process. So that was the reason for changing the 40 hours. And then we just changed up, of course, the verbiage just a little bit, and then also who immediate family is, that just kind of changed up a little bit.
Okay, any questions on that? See none, we'll move on to timekeeping.
Okay, the timekeeping, I feel it's important as we go through learning FLSA on the different requirements and regulations there. So I felt it was important to put in there the non-exempt, what we do need for reporting for timesheets, and then also exempt employees, what we need from them. So I felt that was important to get in there. And then I think that was the only things that changed on there, just kind of the verbiage on the non-exempt and exempt.
Okay. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to overtime and compensatory time.
Okay. So in this one, of course, the verbiage just changed up a little bit, added the work week, what our work week consists of, what the hours and days are. Added in there, how the non-exempt employees work, and then of course added the sheriff's office, how their overtime works. And then added a section in there on comp time, because we do have some departments that are already using comp time, some that weren't using comp time, but I felt it was important we get a policy or something in the policy on comp time and how it should be done. We put a cap on it of 50 hours a year. There isn't a whole lot of departments that would meet or have that, nearly that amount of comp time. However, there are a few that are sitting out there with really high balances, so getting that cap in there leaves a little less liability for the county when we do have to pay it out. So it's either use it or we have to pay it out for November 30th, that comp time. And then the next thing that was added in there was on exempt employees, just stating that it would be between them and their portfolio holder if they do go over the 40 hours a week. And if they do have a lot of extra hours, that they can use it here and there. And of course, that would have to be looked at with their supervisor or portfolio holder. Them are about the only things that have changed in that policy.
Okay. Questions on that?
How do these policy changes compare to the social service department then?
So I've kind of been trying to not align with them, but somewhat be similar to how the state policies are reading.
These are similar then?
Yeah, the hours not so much, because of course they get a little bit more with the state. However, I tried to compare the hours with different counties of our size with the hours.
But you didn't compare it to social service then?
With their policies that they have to go off of, yeah.
You did?
Yeah, I did.
And these are similar?
Similar. Some of the verbiage is similar.
Yeah, the verbiage is similar, it's just that the hours in the state
Right.
merit system accrue actually a little bit quicker than what we're looking at here. So theirs is actually a little bit more generous than ours is. Okay, further questions? And I guess the last one is just 614 would just be eliminating that policy because it's covered up under the sick leave when we talk about maternity, we just rolled that into that policy.
Right, and then the first paragraph about discrimination, that part is in our harassment policy.
Okay.
So, and it's kind of misleading with that pregnancy-related absences. They would more than likely think that that's related to taking time off for pregnancy. And so I feel that it's really a necessary policy to have in place.
Okay. Okay. Further questions on any of the policies? I guess at this point, if we want extra time, I wouldn't propose that, but I guess we would need that motion to table it then for the next meeting.
I'd so move.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table the policies for additional review until the next meeting. Further discussion on that?
One question for Candy. Do you have a financial consequence to these changes? Could you come up with something?
I think the biggest thing would be that paying out the vacation time.
Yeah.
You know, you got an extra, what, 8 days there?
Yeah.
So,
If somebody retired, you might have to pay out an extra couple $1,000s or something
Right.
here, and then it basically would be. And then the sick leave, since we're leaving it uncapped, but it's gonna be limited to a month's salary,
Right.
so in all honesty, if you had a banked up sick leave and it was basically capped, you know, if it was where you're at now and you're paying 1/6, it's gonna be pretty close to a month's salary anyway, so I don't think there'd be a huge amount of exposure there.
I think we need to be responsible to the taxpayers in Ramsey County and have a handle on what this is gonna cost financially.
And I think that's what you.
That's my question.
Okay. example or two for the next meeting, and then we can look at it. Okay, further discussion on the motion.
What other counties did we compare this to?
The other counties that were in there were, I think, was it Ward, Pembina, Botno, I pulled up so many that McKenzie was that one. Yeah, there was quite a few in the list that I went through their employee manuals.
You didn't use Nelson or Benson in our own area?
Nelson, I think, was one that was in there. I'd have to look at my list and see.
Okay. I would like to see what they're doing, the ones in our own area.
Yep, sure,
You know, Ward's totally different,
right.
economic climate in Devils Lakes.
Mhm.
And Quincy County is really different, so.
Okay.
We're not in the oil fields compared to non-oil counties, I think.
Mhm.
Okay, further discussion on the motion to table. Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Okay, motion carries and it'll be tabled till the next meeting then for approval. Anything else, Crystal?
No, just that, oh yeah, at 10, we're gonna have the department heads, they're putting on a barefoot social for all county employees, and it'd be great if you guys could break and attend and do a little visit with employees if that is an option, so just wanted to let you
I'm
guys know.
trying to be done by 10 so we can remember if you're close. We'll
So,
stop. So everyone in the room, crank it along. I want to float. Okay, thank you, Crystal.
Thank you, Crystal.
Yep.
Okay. Kristen.
Good morning.
Morning.
Okay, real quick before I get into my budget stuff, the last few weeks, well, few months and the next 6 weeks or so, I've been working really hard on conference. Our conference is coming up at the end of August. I am still currently the president for our association, so I have been super busy with that. Okay, on to budget so Adam can have his float.
Great.
Do you guys have a particular one you want to start on, or can I just start with hazardous chemicals?
I think the easiest would probably be, do you have the agenda in front of you?
No, oh, yeah.
Yeah, just basically probably
Oh,
just do it
that?
as the agenda states it, that
Okay.
way we can kind of follow
Okay.
along by pages, would be the easiest. Start at 14.
Sure. Risk management, the only thing I changed was I put a little bit more miscellaneous. Sometimes some things come up with, I never know if it's gonna be travel or something to do with ergonomics for somebody's chair in their office, so I just put an extra couple $100 in the budget just to cushion it. Wasn't anything big, it was another $250, so 300, sorry. The DES grant, that stayed as is. We put in 50,000 every year. Essentially what that budget does is grants that come in that we have to pay out before we get reimbursement, that's kind of where that money falls into place, so it doesn't look like we're in the red all of the time. Pre-disaster mitigation, that follows suit, in a grant-wise, the money that's in there, and I only put about $5,000 in there, for any grants that were to come in for mitigation projects throughout the county, or different cities throughout the county. That's where those dollars come into play. I haven't actually had to use any of those dollars the last few years, because everything was done locally per city, not through the county. So, next one, my emergency management grant, that one, let me pull that one up. Salary, I did do with a 2% increase, in my step as was sent out. I don't have fixed charges because at the time when I turned into Candy, I didn't have those, so I don't know if that's in there now. Candy, no? Okay, everything else stayed fairly, on par. I did do a, increase by about $3,700 into our parts, labor, and radio maintenance. That being is because all of our radios are coming to end of life at the end of this calendar year. So if something were to happen, I wouldn't have had any extra dollars in my budget to buy a couple portables I like to keep in my office, or I can utilize those dollars as a grant match or a match for a grant if something were to come up. The way the state does it now, I don't apply for a grant for myself, the whole county, all of our first responders. Each agency is responsible for doing it themselves. So I didn't put anything larger than that $5,000 in that line item, because if I'm taking care of just my own department, my own self, 2 to 3 portables is sufficient.
Is there money out there the state has? or-
Not right at the moment, but I'm hopeful. I've been hopeful for the last 2 years, but I'm still hopeful. I've put in for 2 different grants for communications, and they have been both turned down, and that's been simultaneous across the board through the whole state, so it's not just us.
Do you have the ability to look into federal grants?
What's that?
Do you have the ability to look into federal grants?
It depends on the grant. A lot of federal grants trickle down through the state, and that's what we get to apply for, so. Maybe, maybe not.
So the state grabs it first then?
Mhm. And then they
Any way of
divide
getting
it.
ahead of them?
What's that?
Any way of getting ahead of them?
They're pretty good. They usually get first dibs,
You haven't
so.
you haven't talked to the right federal person?
I have not found the right federal person, but I'll keep looking at
Yeah, I would get ahead of them. They're kind of grabbing everything that moves.
I try to be pretty proactive when it comes to open grants. I've gotten my hands on quite a few dollars, but
Who do you talk to now in Bismarck? Kevin, do you know? It isn't, what's his name anymore, is it?
He retired now.
who are you talking about? Greg Wills?
Yeah.
No, it's Cody Schultz is
Cody
our, the director for the Department of Emergency Services now.
What was his last name?
Schultz?
Schultz.
Morton County Commissioner.
Yep, he's a Morton County Commissioner.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yep,
They said DES or whatever it's called.
so, he's been great to work with, so. But Greg was as well. I had no complaints about either.
Okay.
So that is,
Hazardous chemical.
oh, I forgot about that one, I'm sorry.
You got a lot of pages.
That one stayed the same. I didn't put anything big in that budget. I don't generally use a lot, if any, out of there. Our tier 2 funding that we get in every year from the state, from the different facilities around the county that hold or store hazardous chemicals, usually pays out for anything our local emergency planning committee wants to do. So,
So those dollars then just get passed back to them when we do the first responder training and stuff like that. Those dollars.
different trainings, we buy phones for the fire department for training purposes. We use some of those dollars to hold different exercises throughout the county. I'm allowed to utilize those dollars for feeding our group meetings twice a year, because we have biannual meetings, things like that.
Okay.
And when you provide food, people like to come, so.
Okay, any questions for Kristen on any of the multiple areas?
Questions?
Okay, seeing none, thank you, Kristen.
Thank you.
Okay, Lisa, good morning.
Hello. Everything is about the same, I guess if you have any questions on either budget. And I would like to keep, the clerk up there again because of that, Senate bill we'll be sending out in August. So I'm gonna have her come in again.
So all of those truth and taxation, whatever they're calling, have to go in August now.
They have to be
So
out
that's
by
the-
August 31st.
Yeah, so that line item we have at the $8,000 that has a decent amount left in there is gonna get used up then, or not used up, but we'll be using a portion.
You know, I probably banked it a little high, I don't know. But I would think, I'm banking on a week, we'll get it out in a week.
Okay.
But yeah, everything else is the same.
Just the salary increase. Okay. Well enough, and then the superintendent of schools budget then, same thing there?
Yep, about the same, we do the joint powers, I guess they never ask for any more money, we've always given them $1,100. So, or 1,000, excuse me, $1,000.
Okay, any questions for Lisa on either the treasurer's office budget or the superintendent's school budget? Pretty easy.
Pretty easy.
Okay, no
Thank
questions? Very good, thanks, Lisa. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Beth,
Good
good
morning.
morning.
Mine is also, I think, fairly simple, there's just two changes. The first one would be the 2% movement that was presented to us from the auditor's office for the salaries to start with, so I put those on. And then you'll notice in service contracts that is budgeting half of the payment for Vanguard for the commercial reappraisal that will be going on in the future. Other than that, I didn't make any changes.
That's gonna be a just cost this year then, that 54?
Actually, we're budgeting now, but we can pay them as they do the work, I think the contract was stated.
So
They are
that's-
going to be, oh, sorry, they are, they did contact me, they'll be going to Johnson Green for that in the next, at any time now, they were setting up an appointment with them for that.
Yeah, because we're gonna pay them for this year just out of current budget service contract money, and then this is for half of it, so they're anticipating they're gonna do half next year and half in 2020 then?
No, they'll do it all, they'll do all the work in 19 and our values will go on in 20.
Okay, so,
So there'll be some meetings, I guess, and such, probably the spring of 2020, but the actual, work will be in 19.
okay. So then, we're gonna, that 54,400 covers paying them completely, or does that cover paying, that'll covers half of it? So then we'll have to budget another half
Right,
again for
next.
2020, and that'll be, so it'll be just a split payment?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I was just kinda wrapping
Yeah, I
around.
thought it was more than, total bill was more
Yeah.
than 54, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we already had 94 in there, and that's just for
just to
outstanding
do it
service
over 2
contracts.
years instead of all
Okay.
at once.
Okay.
Which, at once is fine with me, I mean, I just.
No, but that's actually just fine if we could budget it over 2 years, just fine too.
Yep.
Okay, any further questions for Beth then? Pretty simple. Okay, see you none. Thank you, Beth.
See you at the ice cream social.
Roger, good morning.
Morning. I went with the 2% that Crystal had advised. Although, and with Randy's, I put in 500 for overtime because of coming in for snow removal, or if I happen to be gone on vacation, there would be no other way to pay the extra money, unless it's throwing a little bit extra for overtime. And Scott's, I put in, went a little bit over the 2% because it came out to be so little amount of money, but even at 400, it was only $33 a month extra. Travel, same, electricity, guess everything is the same down until maintenance of the courthouse. I raised that from 32 to 34,000. Capital outlay, went from 4 to 5,000. And then, yeah, that was it. Other than the county loan fund, Candy and I were talking, I think 60,000. Whether that has anything to do with this, yeah. So,
Yeah, we were at 60 this year.
yeah, we kept it just because.
Okay.
So, any questions there?
Anything we should fix in the next year?
Well, we'll get to that. I guess we might as well do that now. In 2021, thinking about redoing the gym floor,
Okay.
replacing the floor. And we're getting a few spots that are popping up here and there, getting rough. And a lot of places, if you'll go in and look, and you can see the boards are starting to cup a little bit. So, I mean, this is still the original floor. And we're gonna have to try and put in a floor just like this one because it's a, what's the word?
It's on the
Historic,
historic
on the historic register. So, and when you guys did the sports center a couple of years ago, what was that, 280,000 if I remember right?
Yeah, pretty close to it.
gonna be 350, who knows?
350.
It'll be more than the sports center, cause did you put those squares back in? Like they had before,
Squares.
or they're boards?
They were boards.
Oh, they are boards.
Yeah, they
Oh.
cut them out in squares, but it was full length boards. I would assume that floor up there has gotta be probably a little bigger than this one too.
Oh.
I
But,
think so.
yes, I know they're narrow boards, but aren't they like in squares that you can put down, or not?
I don't believe
No,
so.
they were.
No?
They were boards.
Okay. Well, anyway, you know,
And their costs went up a little too because they had to do additional concrete work
We had
underneath
some
there.
Yeah.
surface damage under there.
so,
So hopefully, but our building is much older too, so who knows what kind of
yeah,
surface.
you know, and I know there's concrete under this floor also, and hopefully it's okay, but, you know, just throwing that number out there just so. And I've already talked to Amy Munson, down in Bismarck regarding grant money, and of course she says, well, you know, there's no, we can apply, but there's no way to know until that time comes. But regardless, I'll have to have that amount of money in my budget, and you know, any grant money we get would just help replenish that, so.
Should we start applying for grants now?
You can't until that year.
Well, let's bank them, come on, 4 years at 50 grand a piece or so,
Yeah.
just bank it out.
And I asked that very question. She goes, no, you can't until, and you know, we would start like, in 2020, it probably has to be in, I think, usually by like mid-December, and then that would be for the following year.
So you'd have to budget in the 2020 budget cycle for
Yes.
2021, and
Yes.
then we'd have to apply for the grant and not know if we're gonna get it till December.
Exactly.
Well, how old's the building? 19,
34, I believe, was built, started in there. So,
yeah, we've got our life out of the floor.
yeah, it's done pretty well.
80
So,
years, that's not too bad, 85.
yeah.
They won't let us put anything in here but the original floor. Wood?
I don't know what happened, you know, I mean, they're gonna be highly upset with us.
They are, huh?
They would, you know, if you, since it's on the historic register, if you put in something that isn't as close as possible to original, they're gonna, I don't know what would happen, but they're certainly gonna frown on it.
Just for everybody's ability to think things over, let's get a substitute price on a substitute floor, on a different type of floor. Let's look into it.
Okay? What exactly,
Because this floor is used for, you know, everything,
you know,
you know.
what,
You look up what you
type of
think,
floor are you talking about?
all weather or tartan floor, or what else is there? I'm sure there's more products than I had 10 years ago.
I'm sure.
Just see, let's see what it costs.
Okay?
Maybe it's
I
way cheaper to
can
go with something
talk
like that.
to Amy Munson in Bismarck and mention that and see what she says back to me.
I'd get price first. I think I know what she's gonna tell you.
Yeah, I pretty well know what you're gonna tell me too.
Yeah, but let's just,
Okay.
there's be companies out there that do this every day, you know?
Okay,
And have prices, and
all right,
let's get a ballpark figure, let's see if it's 300 when we know that the wood floor is right there, you know?
yeah, okay,
Again, it would never hurt to have it for comparison's sake anyway, because
No.
just to have a ballpark so we know what we're looking at when it comes
Yeah.
down the pipeline, and if we
Yeah.
do wood too.
yeah,
I
You
guess
know, and
if it comes in at 150, I guess we don't have to tell Amy. Is that what her name was? Yeah.
yeah.
You
Okay,
know, we're gonna put the substitute floor in for 150, and, or unless you're gonna cover the cost of this historical building floor.
okay. So you're,
I'm not sure if that's how that historical registry works.
yeah, me neither.
We'll find out.
Yeah. So you're thinking of maybe some sort of composite try to, like, you know, they've got, instead of regular wood decking, they have like a plastic, so to speak? Is that what you're thinking?
Something like that, I don't know.
Okay.
What other material they use? I don't know.
I really don't know.
yeah, that's a good question.
All right, well, we'll look around, got a couple of years.
Okay, couple of years,
Okay.
yeah.
It's good to get started early.
Okay, for weed control, for the most part, that was just shuffling around of numbers. I guess I did raise it $900 total. But we got a carryover, really substantial. I think we'll only need the 2.25 mil, same as last year, to equal our 3 mils to get our state money back. As you can see, just raised 1,000 for board salaries, 6 charges, same equipment. What else do we, all labor unemployment, 45 to 47. Dropped 10 to 12 from 50 to 48. So. Any questions?
Anybody?
Looks good.
All right. Thank you, Roger.
You bet.
Jared.
Hey.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I haven't met you yet.
All right, well, to go over mine.
This is the library director,
Yeah,
right? Maybe
the
Luke should
library
introduce
Just
him.
figured that out.
This is the library director.
He's
Nice
the
to
guy in
meet
the
you,
room.
nice to meet you.
He's the guy in the room that we weren't sure who you were. So we don't know.
Well, as far as changes to the budget, no major changes were put in. As you go down and look, everything's about the same. I mean, it might be off by a couple $100 or $1,000 because it went to a different line. There's only 2 new line items, and those are the e-collection resources, creating an adult and juke e-collection resource. But other than that, most of it's pretty much the same.
Okay. Salvage and sewer.
Hey Jared, I thought if the person brought a book in during April that it was amnesty and you didn't get sent to collections. But I got my bill from collections. Did you? 2 days ago, yeah. Did they not waive it when you brought it in? Do you know who was at the desk when you? I don't know who was at the desk. I've been noticing that a lot of things are not getting waived, supposedly, or checked in even. So,
Good job.
at the top of the stack.
There is a mill levy cap on libraries.
And it's for rural,
Yeah.
Mhm.
so that would get us to what, probably 4 times what, 38 or so is probably gonna be the rule. Like that. So we're not close to the cap.
Uh,
Okay, does anybody have any questions? It's pretty straightforward, I guess. Looks like your expenditures are gonna be up, but that's, you're hoping to draw some donations, I would assume that some of that has to do with starting working on the reading garden and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, so a lot of that will go in there when we start fundraising for that, so.
Okay, any questions for Jared? Seeing none.
Thank you, Jared.
Thank
Thanks
you
for
very
being
much.
That's
on.
pretty easy for you, huh?
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming in. Okay, Steve isn't here because he is ill. So the sheriff won't be with us today. So we will have to reschedule him for next meeting. Susie, good morning.
Good morning.
Go back to the right page here. Okay.
There's 2 budget.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll scoot the agenda down.
It's pretty much the, same as year to year. I did increase the game fish income a little bit. We got some paperwork from them last year that says they're reevaluating, reimbursements to fish cleaning stations around the state. Wow. Based on, usage and, expenses individually, so I think we'll get a little bit of an increase next year, so I increased that. Otherwise, it pretty much stayed the same. And professional fees is up just a little bit because our bids have slowly gone up over the years. But other than that, we're pretty much, same year to year, so we're asking for 15,000 again from the county.
Yeah, you're in, you're in pretty good shape in terms of all of the grinders and everything. I mean, because I know that you had done some replacement last year and
Yeah.
had some grant funding.
We replaced Lakewood 2 summers ago. Then we replaced 6 Mile Bay this summer. And our plan is to hopefully write another grant to Game and Fish to do Henniger Landing next year. So then all 3 summer stations will be updated within the last 3 years. And Henniger needs it. We've had some problems with that one this year.
And it sounds like they obviously grind a lot, so
Yes.
they go through fairly quickly. I mean,
Yep.
they only last so long, so.
Yep, and our year-round is in pretty good shape right now too, so hopefully, fingers crossed. I mean,
No major.
Henniger, I think we fixed, had to fix 3 major issues in 1 week, just because it was stuffing her full.
And what's the cost of those again?
Oh.
Like $5,000 or something?
Yeah, I wanna say like 6, I think, and then we get the whole system and the table if we receive the grant from Game and Fish, and then we're responsible for, taking the old one out and putting the new one in.
Okay, any questions for Susie on the lake access budget then? Pretty good. Okay, seeing none, thank you, Susie.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't forget, Susie, if you need some funding for those, stop by the joint board.
Definitely.
I was gonna say, you guys funded the one last year, so
Yep.
thank you for that.
Yeah, I think you, did the replacement at the year-round, if I'm not mistaken, for us, so. Yeah, it's always nice to have a spare on hand, so then when we have to send them to Acme in Grand Forks, we have one that we can put in right away, so we're not halting.
So that goes back to our budget for the joint board. We generally budget $20,000 for county projects, county grants. This year we just did had a request from Ramsey County to put an end-on station, and it ended up right in between Garski and Webster. And so if you go on the end-on app on your inversion deal, it shows up as Webster.
I did not know that. We have a new
It's
one.
not on the website yet, but it's on their little soybean council app that soybean council funds for the inversion, and it does have the inversion on it.
Does it have the whole works though?
Yep.
So there's actually 2 now then?
Well, there's Prairie, there's Webster Garski, and then Edmore as
Oh,
well.
there's one in
Yeah, so,
Oh, there's one, I didn't know that one.
yeah.
Yeah, because I always use the Prairie one, but Webster Garski might actually match me better than the Prairie one.
Yeah, I think it's, I don't think the Edmore one shows up as with the inversion, so that may not have that. And I think that's located like 3 miles northwest of Edmore.
Yeah, and the
That's
invert,
listed as.
and some of the older ones don't have the inversion stuff on them yet, because they have to put an additional
Yeah,
tower of some kind up for the inversion, so.
but that's something that we're looking to put across, you know, and areas within the basin that maybe don't have a recording station that would be beneficial, you know, I've been hearing a lot of rumors of bigger rains in the upper basin, and it shows up with the coolies running, but I don't know where the rains fell or how much kind of thing, and so we're looking at putting a few of those within the next few years, but I left the county assessments the same on our budget, and what we're doing is gonna try to spend down the money market account that we have. We have too much money in our savings account and need to spend some of that down. We just haven't had a big project as of late. So, but we are gonna fix that Morrison outlet. The joint board is responsible for the structure within that and the channel from Morrison outlet all the way to Dry Lake. So this year we're gonna do some cattail spraying throughout that channel, and then either take a look at doing some cleaning, maintenance project throughout there. We've noticed quite a bit of slugging on the banks within there, but the control structure itself is very damaged. It's through frost and ice heaves and things like that. It's tilted and leaning, and it doesn't function as it should. So we're either going to have to remove that entirely or somehow fix it. But I don't know if fixing it would be the right answer. You know, we originally put it in there for storage purposes to store an additional ½ foot of water on that lake in the summer, draw it down in the fall, provide some extra storage capacity come next spring. But it required 100% landowner cooperation, and we had a few landowners that said no. And, you know, they had a lot of sulfate bleed over into their property, and they felt it was because of the high water concentrations in the lake during the summer. And then if they had a big rain through there and it was kept high, it could flood out and drown out some of their crops in those low-lying areas. So that project went away several years ago, and the control structure has been used or maintained and is in pretty rough shape. So we're gonna have to do something there, and that's gonna cost us some money, but so.
And that's under the project cost?
Yeah,
Basically,
bottom
not
line
sure
is
what you can do
it's
yet.
not gonna cost the county anymore, any additional money. So, you know, we wanna get our expenses or savings spent down and,
Okay.
Your joint board looked this over, Jeff?
yeah, they approved it. We started reading, our first initial reading was in our April meeting, then we read it again and went through it again in May, and then we did a final approval in our June meeting.
Okay, further questions for Jeff on the joint basin budget? Seeing none, alright, thanks Jeff.
Thank you.
Okay, Brenda was in earlier. Kevin, morning. Morning. We're not doing your budget today, so everybody knows, because he's still doing some finalization of budget, so we're just gonna do regular agenda items.
Can I get a copy?
I think we can add that in, I don't think that's a problem. But we'll go with Kevin right now.
Okay, we'll start off with our projects we got going now. The soft spots we were fixing on 4 and 6 are done for now. The ones we did, I don't know if anybody's had a chance to drive through there, but boy, what a difference it made. It actually worked. I mean, you can see where, on a couple of them, not all of them, where we started and stopped. We should have went a little further, but it does make a big difference. It actually worked, grinding that up and putting the cement in, so kind of trial and error. Now we know as we go on through this, we'll get better at it. And
So next time we'll just, or we can go in and we
Go a little
can do the
further,
spots
yep.
a little further out.
take off more.
But I was gonna ask on that, how long is that supposed to last before you might have to go in and do something with it again?
It should last until you have to disturb that base. You know, that it's if you think of it as cement down there, sucking up the moisture. You know, unless the moisture problem showed up again.
Yeah, I mean, I would guess over an amount of time with truck traffic and everything, just like any other, you know, base, it's gonna, you know, break it up eventually, but it should last for a decent amount of time with
Sure.
cement.
With the other counties that are doing it throughout the state, they haven't seen any failures, but it's only been like a 3 year since people started doing
Yeah,
it.
it's pretty good.
How many spots did you do on 6?
Just one on 6, just past that big, just east of that big slough. And
6.
And on 4 you did how many?
oh, we must have done 12 or 13 of them on 4.
North of the rocket farm.
Yeah. We just missed some of the smaller ones, but we got the bigger ones.
Yeah, before it goes to 7, so basically you did 4 from there all the way up to 8 then.
Just asking so when they travel to get
There's red flags, so when you see a red flag, that's one we did.
Oh, I'll have to go over, not drive it.
That's really coming down, isn't it?
That's not as bad as it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, cause hopefully we can get back to doing some other spots this summer if we get a
Right.
chance, cause that'd be nice. Since we know it's working
it's
now,
gonna
you know, cause there's, you know, some spots on 7 that would be nice to touch on. But no, it's nice that that's an option, so we don't have to dig stuff out and fabric things, and
Right.
it could save us a lot of time and hassle
Fairly quick.
and cost.
One thing I was gonna mention on that Ramsey 4 is, since that Doyle elevator's been in place, that road sees a ton of traffic,
Oh,
truck traffic.
I'm sure it does.
It is crazy. So, something to think about, even after I retire, that road's gonna be an issue. So just a heads up for everybody.
You think this, what we're doing here, as far as improving these soft spots, that's gonna stand up to the traffic that road gets?
We'll see, I mean, it has in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks. The trucks haven't, excuse me, trucks haven't stopped running on it, so, and it's harder and harder where we put the stuff.
Yeah, it's gonna be like anything, we're gonna have to watch it over the next few years and see how it holds up. And
Exactly.
even if you have to come for the cost of what it costs us to do it at the time, even if you gotta go back in and do it every 4th or 5th year, it's not that bad. I mean, what we spent $4,200 on cement
Right.
to do all those spots, I mean, that's pretty affordable comparatively to other options.
Yeah, and you know, if you think about, putting fabric in there and gravel, you're kinda getting close to the same price. Maybe a little cheaper for the fabric, but we were seeing where the fabric was being hooked with the motor grader, and once you hook that fabric with the motor grader, it loses its goodie, so to speak. I mean, it falls apart and doesn't do what it's supposed to do. Our chip seal project is done. We have to do the striping on it yet, which is gonna be roughly $25,000.
You need a water, Kevin?
Yeah.
I'll go grab you one. Sounds like you need water.
One thing I'm starting this year, and I had it in my budget, I guess I should wait for Adam.
Is it gone? No.
Of course.
Summer cold, it's definitely throat.
Allergies. But one thing was striping, I started this year and I put it in my budget to do it, but like the roads that we chip sealed 3 years ago, I'm repainting them just to try and liven up them lines. We're on a 6-year rotation, so then every 3 years they'll be painted again, which is gonna add up to another, say, 25,000. But I have it in my budget. So this year you'll see where the striping costs are gonna be about 50,000, but I think it's gonna be a big benefit to taxpayers.
Yeah, some of those roads that were, they're getting pretty
Though,
dull, yeah, it's.
How often does the state do it?
they do it every year, every 2 years.
2 years.
At least every 2.
Yeah, so being every 3rd is probably, that's fair.
We've tried this about every 2.
And that oil coat that they put over the top on that chip seal now seems to do a really nice job. So
Yeah, that's
seems
the
to
trend
hold
of the
those really
future
nice.
too. I mean, it costs another $30,000-$40,000, but I think it's well worth it.
I think it seems as though.
When they first started telling us about it, they said, think of it as a layer of glue, like on plywood. You know, you put a layer of glue on plywood, it just gets stronger and stronger. So you think of this fog seal as another layer of glue that just helps bind everything together. It does keep the chips down so the plow doesn't take them off. And another thing we noticed is when we paint it, the lines show up so much better when you paint it.
I believe that, they got darker surface and stuff.
It will wear off within a year or so. If we go on the south end of the Woodruff Bridge where Vincent Queen did last year, it's, doesn't look a whole lot different than it did before.
Yeah.
And it would have with regular,
Right.
but the stripes do still show up better.
Okay, any questions on chip seals? Okay, gravel.
Graveling, talked to Sopers and they're doing some township work now, so within the next month or so, they should be starting on, they got both those projects. Bridge work, we started, or actually we did get the deck tore off that Morris Township Bridge. So it's pretty much ready for the new one. I got an email yesterday that they're about 3 weeks behind on production, so it's gonna be, August sometime before.
Yeah, I knew that was gonna happen.
Oh, God, yeah, I could have etched it into a rock.
How's that gonna affect your crane?
Exactly, that's my call when I get back to the office is,
Okay.
I'm worried, but, I think those guys are easy to work with, and they've got lots of cranes, so.
Okay. Cross your fingers.
Yeah. But I'll keep you up to speed on that, it's I just found out yesterday that they're gonna be late.
Okay.
Base stabilization, I sent bids to 3 different contractors, local contractors for water and packing. And I should have those back by the next meeting, so we'll know what that's gonna cost. Definite cost. And we also have our mag water done for the season. And number 2, I need to order a load of culverts for the stock out at the yard, the cost. $14,265.
Move to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve blank culverts for stock. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Frith,
Aye.
Brown, Lightfoot.
Motion carries.
And I also need to order some cutting edges for the summer for the motor graders, and they're gonna cost $14,875.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to, by cutting edges for the motor graders. Further discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Brown,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Frith,
Aye.
Olson,
Aye.
Lightfoot.
Motion carries.
I have 2 other things to add, real quick. The Federal Highway is putting together a national safety peer exchange. And it's gonna be in Kansas City in September, middle of September. And they're gonna pay, Federal Highway is gonna be paying for all of the travel expenses. And I've been asked to go, there's gonna be a LTAP representative, a state representative, and then a county representative. They asked me if I'd be interested in going. It's gonna, I'll have to pay for the rooms. That's probably about it. Oh, and the convention itself, I don't know if there's gonna be a registration fee for that, but I don't know, whatever you guys think. I mean, there's probably lots of other people that would be interested in going, but they asked me if I'd be interested.
It's a good idea.
How many days is it?
What's that?
How many days is it?
11th through the 13th, so probably 2 or 3.
2 or 3.
And all the peers from all the representatives from like a region 8 type thing, get together and head brainstorm about safety issues. That's what it's gonna be.
I can't see a lot, a loss in that. That's not a good idea to me if they're gonna pay for the travel. Do we
So-
need it?
I need a motion to
Motion
approve
for
that.
out-of-state travel.
I move to approve that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for out-of-state travel for Kevin to go to the conference, and you said it's Kansas City.
Kansas City,
Kansas City, for Federal Highway Safety
middle
Conference.
of September.
Okay, further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries.
And the last thing, this you can just kind of kick around if you want. In the past, the commission has told me that I should wash my vehicle out at the shop, which is fine, we can do that. But now the car wash here in town has this program going where you can pay like for $35, $40 and get as many washes as you want. So like 2 washes, 2.5 washes is what the labor would cost for us to do out there. And so John Dahlin approached me and thought, you know, it was a good deal for everybody. So it's like $35 a month, and just curious, or $39. Just curious if you guys would be okay with that.
That'd be okay with
I saw the sheriff's department, I think, in bills this month actually put some unlimited washes on their vehicles already. Yeah, but I guess that won't be a problem.
Good to have a clean county vehicle.
Yeah, and they last longer too.
Yeah, keeps them in good shape, so, yeah. not a
Good
big
enough,
deal.
I will pursue that then. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Okay, on to new business, approval of a set authorization for, I believe it's the Hamden Bar.
Motion to approve.
A second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the set authorization for charitable gaming in the Hamden Bar. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. Pledge of assets. Do we have a sheet for that? Oh, there we go.
Just got
Okay, so this is the different pledge of assets to the banks for maximum holding capacity, correct? Okay, so the numbers would be Ramsey Bank, $5,318,047.29. Bremer Bank would be $3.5 million. Western Bank would be $7,667,928.71.
Move to approve.
Second,
Okay.
Candy, does that change as our balances change then as well, or?
Lisa gives me those figures.
Okay.
Yeah,
In discussing with Lisa previously when I was on that, yeah, it changes with how much we're moving it around as well as I think the bank's assets and what they're comfortable with to a point, I think, because we're obviously a pretty big chunk of money sitting in the bank.
Well, as our revenues come in, we have much more at a certain time of the year kind of thing, and.
Yeah, and I think we have to approve it, twice a year? So we approve it first and we always approve it July 1st basically, so that it just gets shifted, so. And they're usually pretty similar, I think, overall. I don't think we'll have to go up. So, okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the pledge of assets to the 3 lending institutions in Devils Lake. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. Okay, a request from Northern Plains Resource and Conservation, and this is the group that Paul Overby came in and visited with us, I believe it was last year, about $300 membership. They're doing a lot of different interesting things, and it sounded like a good setup last time when we signed up.
I'd move to approve.
Okay. Second. We have a motion and a second to approve a $300 membership to the Northern Plains Resource Conservation and Development. Yes, second.
I had my head down, sorry.
It's too quiet.
No, let's try not to look outside.
Okay, further discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Motion carries. Okay, and then discussion on the comprehensive plan contract, and we have the documents on your desks, and I guess I'll just let Jeff kind of fill us in on what's going on there.
Yeah, looking at the contract, it states, the contract was originally for $40,500. And if they were gonna go over that, they wanted, approval in writing from us as a commission. And it looks like, according to Joel's email that he had sent me, is that, and we haven't received any bills for the 2018 yet. And that looks like $5,200, correct, Candy?
Yes.
Yeah, $52.29. And we had budgeted, I think this year we had, is it 12,000 or 11?
11,844.
So, and this is something that, getting into this, you had no idea what the heck I was doing. I just knew that after 40 years we needed an updated plan. And this seemed like a really good way to help us accomplish that. And we're getting very close. We have to, and I think what we're going to end up doing is with the zoning is have some committee meetings without Joel there, just to kind of hammer out some differences that we may have with our committee members and better understand some of the things that we have approved and make sure that everybody's comfortable with it.
Do you think we can get there?
Do
you think we can get to the point where we hammer out the differences?
Well, I think so. I think that can be done. If you look at this thing, it should be a working document once we're done. It shouldn't be something that's on the shelf for 40 years and then you blow the dust off it. I get phone calls and emails all the time about, can we put an antenna for a cellular tower on an existing one? And, stupid questions like that, it's time consuming. It really is. So once we get this done, we're going to pass this off to Beth's office and where they can dive into it and have a better understanding of what can and can't be done out in the county and be able to answer these things in a better, more timely manner than what I'm able to do. Because, even looking through the plan, I don't know, exactly, well, does that township handling that antenna, or is it us, or is it, and, yeah, so. But hopefully by the end of this summer, we'll have this thing knocked out. One part of our problem is trying to schedule a meeting with our producers that are on that committee and not disrupting their lives in order to get their input on what we're doing. But then once we get that done, we can get her, have a public meeting and get that thing approved by the commission. Very similar to your home rule committee meeting, although we're not on a time constraint that you're on. So, but although we probably should be, might get it done. But it is what it is. But I guess, going forward, we probably need to approve KLJ to go above and beyond that $40,000 that was initially set aside or agreed upon in the contract.
Did you use the 40,000?
Just about. I think we, 38 something.
Like 38,000, I think it's like 38.5.
Yeah.
But that's been since
16, I think it is, yeah. It was when we started, 15 maybe.
2015.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jeff, as far as having meetings with the committee and not having KLJ.
Yeah.
Because the two I've been to when they're there, I mean, they're more or less a moderator. I mean, they're not coming with the new ideas or anything. I think the ideas have been talked about.
Yeah.
The committee's gotta get to an agreement somehow.
Right. Yep.
And if it can't be done, then it's probably gonna have to be expanded
Probably.
and start over
Yeah.
if we feel that way.
Yeah, but I think it can be worked out and worked through, and we have such a diversity within our county. On the southern end, we have such a high lakeshore development type of community that setting up subdivisions and different things like that. Where on the northern end, you don't need as much control or oversight or what have you on the southern end, because it's primarily agricultural land. Absolutely. And I think that's something that we need to work into that. But if we're only doing this thing every 15, 20 years, you want to make sure that you put together a decent document.
Go on for 3 years down the road and it doesn't fit the.
Right.
And
At the end of the day, it's going to be our names as a commission that's going to be a part of that document for the next 20 years. And so the vision of our county has to be part of that.
Like I said, if the committee can't get those decisions, I mean,
Yeah.
then we're gonna have to just disband it and
Yeah.
start over at some point. I don't know when, but
Well, and that's something
immediately
that,
wouldn't be the answer.
no, and that's something that I haven't come across is a set of bylaws maybe for the committee to operate under. How long are those committee member appointments, or is it a lifetime deal? I know it's every so often, but we don't get any, we put out a publication saying that if you're interested in serving on this board, please, send a letter of interest to the auditor of the county commission by such and such date. We never get anything back other than from the committee members. So those committee members, some of them have been on for a number of years.
Which we appreciate your service.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because a lot of times we don't get responses
Yeah.
from the public when we're looking for people to serve on boards.
That's part of my, some of the questions that the public has asked me is, how has, this person been on that board for so long, or how they get, I said, well, just like anybody else, any other committee or board that the county commission approves. And, every December, or whatever is December or January, we look for new members for whatever boards have vacancies coming up. And
fluctuates.
They're the only ones that have been showing an interest, so, very much appreciate their work that they put into this.
The townships, are they putting a lot of interest into it?
The southern ones are, the ones around the lake. Some of them are holding off on approving what they're doing to wait to see what the county's doing, kind of thing. Some of them are redoing. The more aggressive county or township like Creel, they have their own planning, zoning, comprehensive plan, and they're a very active township for obvious reasons. But there's some other lakeshore townships that have some planning and zoning done, but they want to further their zoning based on what the county comes up with, But there's a lot of townships in the northern area that have relinquished their planning and zoning to the county. And so we need to be cognizant of that and get them taken care of too, so we're not delegating what we're telling them based on a 40-year-old plan. So.
Does Quebec think we can get to a solution?
Well, I think he does. He would like to get it off his table, and his superiors would like to see it wrapped up, but,
You're not sure if he thinks he can get there.
I think he does.
You think he does?
Yeah. It's not his first rodeo.
No, I know.
That's come to this, and so he's seen counties and townships and things that had disagreements on how their plan should be done, but it ultimately comes down to a compromise and for the betterment of the township or the county or the city that they're working towards.
You haven't set any dates for any more meetings?
I haven't. No. One, we wanted to get through spring's work, and that's obviously wrapped up. And, it seems like, is there ever really a good time? I think we're probably just gonna have to schedule it, and who can make it, and who can't. Well, we'll get their input at another time, kind of thing. But, yeah.
Have you ever tried any daytime meetings?
We haven't. We may have to go to an early morning or just during the day. Certainly it'd work better for the county employees that are on that committee. We're here anyway, we're in the building, we're kind of a captive audience, if you would. But whether or not we can disrupt the committee members' day like that, I'm not sure if that would work out better for them or not. Depends on the day, I suppose.
Maybe in the month of July we can try that. Will this day work, for you guys or you people that are on this committee and at 1 o'clock or 10 o'clock or whatever time you want to do it. And maybe that would, get to a conclusion instead of starting at 7 at night. And at 10:30.
And then everybody's tired.
And they're tired,
Fresh wind in the morning.
yeah.
Right,
So maybe there can be some clear thinking and
right.
compromise, and
So yeah, we'll give that a try.
we all know that what's taking place as far as we need a compromise.
Yep. So we'll see what dates would work for everybody or days of the week. I know Mr. Ziegler is busy at his job during
Monday, Tuesday, tough days,
Monday, Tuesday's tough days for him. So, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday even would maybe be beneficial.
I'll the feeler and see if that's what they're interested in.
Sure.
So at this point, basically, we have to approve going over the $40,000.
Yeah,
And so we have 38 changes that has been spent, and they're looking at an additional 5,200 total then to hopefully finish it out, is the thought process.
well, I think that's what's been expended up to this point in
Oh, okay, so it might be.
the costs which have occurred to the project since January are $52,2910. It will be necessary to hold 1 or 2 meetings with the planning commission, board of county commissions before we reach the point where the document is finally approved and can be delivered to the county. So I'm guessing that we could probably pretty easily spend that additional $11,800 if we, but by then we'd have a completed document.
So where is that 11.8 budgeted in then? That's
So
our-
we're planning
So we budgeted for, we
12,000.
budgeted 12,000 for this year then?
For this
For
year.
18.
So we have the money budgeted,
Right,
oh, it's just a matter of approving spending
Yeah,
over the
well,
top of
well,
that 40,000 on the
right.
contract?
yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Also, do you think that'll do it then? Maybe?
Well, it'll have to be, we'll put together a document and bring it forward to the commission for our approval at that time,
I think the committee should be made aware of this financial obligation the county's making, and that we're gonna go to another 12, basically.
We'll do that,
And that we need to get to an agreement,
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
so
so,
I don't think I wanna continue on
Let's get it knocked out.
without an agreement.
I think, don't get me wrong, I think that the document itself and the agreements that are gonna be in the document, the compromise is very important, but I think the more important portion of it is once the document is completed, that we, like you said, we can't sit it on a shelf. It's gotta be a living, breathing, active document, we're gonna have to have enforcement at that, not enforcement, but some type of, a conduit to somebody that's
Oh,
gonna
I
be the building
totally
saying,
understood that. I'm
yeah.
hoping that's what
Yeah.
we use.
Yeah, to me, that's the most important thing, because,
Well, it makes sense.
basically, the last document was done in '73, and it just sat on, we haven't had any kind of I hate to use the word regulatory, but somebody that can basically be like, hey, this is what this means.
yeah.
You're okay on this, type of thing, so we have to have somebody in the building that's gonna be capable of doing that, and I think that's a huge portion of this. So, keep working on it, get it done, I suppose. We have a motion on the table then to allow over the 40,000 on the contract. So we're gonna approve the bills as they come in, we're just allowing going over that contract spec, and then we'll approve the bills as they come in. Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Brown on that, do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second, further discussion? Yeah, we'll roll call it, further discussion, seeing none, roll call please.
Olson,
Aye.
Wakefield,
Aye.
Brown,
Aye.
Britt,
Aye.
Lightfoot.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. It wasn't on the agenda, but who made the motion to approve the agenda and who made the second?
I did.
Wakefield and Britt.
Is it okay with the maker of the motion and the second if we add the state's attorney's budget to the agenda?
Absolutely.
You don't have a page on that one?
Number 6.
I don't know, I had to get a copy too, so.
Oh, okay.
She got it done, she just didn't know we were gonna do that.
Okay, salaries, those were the 2%, that was the change on those. Office supplies, I went up 1,000, that changed 1,000, I went from 3 to 4, and that was mainly the reality of 4 people doing business and Marcy's Law notifications and things like that we do. We do that every step of the way in a criminal case, so when the case first starts, we send out some notifications to any victims, and then keep them updated through the whole life of the case, as well as once the case is done. If there's probation revocations and different things like that, then we do those notifications. What else was that? Library went up $250, even though I haven't touched it as of yet, and that is because I'm gonna try and find some different online resources. We use the Century Code online right now. I know Benson County uses Westlaw, which is, the quote that the guy gave me for Westlaw was $758 a month for research, and I can't go there yet. So I think we can find some journal type online things. So that's, I kind of budgeted looking at the possibility of that. Capital outlay stayed the same, miscellaneous double. The reason that doubled is because at some point, one of the paralegals is going to need a better desk. I would suspect the desk that she's using is probably 34 years old. A little bit different from this, but not a whole lot.
You got some marks on it?
Oh, yeah. And the assistant state's attorney is using her own furniture that she brought in from her prior fire office, and then I think I got my desk for $100 from some hairdresser that went out of business or moved to a different location. So we're watching Facebook garage sales is what we're doing. But we might need to buy some better furniture. So that's in there, just in case. And the other paralegal, I'm not sure when her furniture set was bought. I have no idea. That was there when I came, so. I know what the state guidelines used to be on furniture replacement, but anyway. So those are the changes
A little different here.
to the budget, yeah. I think it was like 5 years per chair, and I bet everybody in here probably needs a new chair then. But anyway, that's the budget. Does anybody have any questions on the budget?
Where are we at caseload this year versus last year?
We're same. Probably juvenile is probably a little bit less, but the juvenile court gal is out on maternity leave, so somebody's here from Grand Forks. And he has indicated that's going to pick up very quick. I think our mental health is probably higher. That would be my guess. We seem to have a lot of mental health hearings which require reimbursement by the county for the person's attorney to come in for that, and I think those are at least $150 a case, if not $300 a case, from the respondent's attorney.
My other question would be, counties similar in size to us that maybe have a similar caseload? I don't know who they would be, maybe Walsh or somebody like that?
Well, Walsh is similar in size. They have the same amount of staff, but their caseload is
Not
less
close.
than half.
And that's what I'm, that's basically where I'm leading. I don't wanna blow the budget up, but I don't wanna burn our staff out.
Well,
I mean, is
I
it
would
something where
say
more staff would be necessary in the future or something
maybe,
like that?
and the reason I say maybe is because it really is gonna depend on what type of drugs show up here in our county. Martin and I went to a meeting, was it this week or last week at the task force agency, as well as piggybacking to the one I was at out in Detroit. So, you know, we have meth, we have some heroin, pills, marijuana, which really, I mean, that's kind of everywhere. But the problem is if we start seeing more of the fentanyl and those types of things, then I think we're going to have some serious issues coming. And I think the meth is cheaper right now, so that seems to be the drug choice, that and pills. But the problem is, you know, we learned a lot, and this is just totally outside of that. We learned a lot about just the creative skills of people that are running drugs, I guess, and how they're marketing things. So people, you know, you might have a drug user who's going to think they're buying this type of a pill, and they're actually going to be getting other things now. So it could be quite scary what might show up this way. I suppose I do probably 2 to 5 hours a week outside of work on calls, which can range from, you know, is an electronic signature on a credit card machine considered forgery or theft to here's a big issue, you know, and it's the PD, it's the sheriff's office, HP, task force, so it's everyone, but at some point maybe and maybe not, maybe not, it's gonna just depend.
I'm just curious more than anything, you know, I think we've talked about that in the past, just making sure that we're, you know, staff appropriate to the amount of cases that we're seeing, because, you know, to burn people out, gotta be, I don't think there's an industry standard for how many staff there are to cases or anything, but, you
There
know,
actually
is there-
probably is under the Bar Association. I thought I saw something, and I think we're close to the industry standards, so I think we're okay right now. Just for a portfolio thing, Jeff had called, I didn't get a chance to get back to him. Martin and Kim, Martin went to the State's Attorney's Conference, Kim also went to a Victim Assistance Conference, and there's some VOCA grant that we might be looking at, which should maybe be able to be used for one of the paralegal salaries partially, but we're just in the beginning of figuring out how that will flow. And then there is somebody who has some computer program through the AG's office, I think, that state's attorneys can apply for to get it kind of for free. They're going to come out and do a demo to us and tell us what it does. So that's about it.
Okay, any other questions on Carrie's budget? Okay, seeing none. General questions? Okay, thanks, Carrie. Okay, this is the budgeting for the day. Okay, we got all the new business done, visitors and delegations. Rodney's just hanging out. Just here to listen. Okay, portfolios. I guess we'll start with Mark.
Well, everything's been pretty quiet. Went to a lake access meeting. They had their big schedule all written out, but now I've changed it again, but,
I saw you're going
I
last
have it.
Wednesday of the month now?
yeah,
Okay.
I have been notified,
Okay, good.
so, that's going good. LEC is making progress every day, I believe. Pop in every now and then just to see if, they're doing what they say they're doing, and they're moving forward, trying to get that first order rescinded. Other than that, everything else is pretty quiet.
Okay. Jeff?
Well, I don't have a whole lot. You know, most of the committees that we're on is meet later on in the month, but something that Brenda didn't mention is that Ramsey County has a national champion trap shooter. Nathan Lorenz was down in Grand Island last week and took the individual high in the trap shooting competition. Down there, he shot a 98 out of 100, got into a shoot-off and won that. And so the team did very well. Nathan Lorenz, Ordell Morstead, Forrest Hansen, and Josh White, part of the Ramsey County team that went down there. Mr. Hodis went down with them, and I think they took 10th in the sporting clays as a team. They took 4th in skeet and 5th in trap as a team, so they did quite well. So, you know, congratulations to that program. We continue to have, I don't know how many kids we have out there shooting on Mondays and Wednesdays, but it's quite a few. You know, our advanced classes, I think there's 17 kids signed up for that. I think we have 11 in our beginning class, and our intermediates probably around 9, 10. So there's a good bunch of kids, and we're always looking for more. Volunteers and help. And the state tournament will be in August in Bismarck for that program. Ramsey County has won that ever since its inception. So whether or not they win it again this year, and if the kids decide that they want to go to Grand Island next year, they'll have that opportunity. But other than that, I don't have a whole lot to report.
Okay, thank you. Lucas?
Heritage Center Director has been hired, I think I mentioned that. I'm fairly sure she was to start this week, so I think she's over there now. I got the opportunity before she started to personally be roped into giving a tour for 5 Californians who really liked the place, and said that they would be sending everybody that was coming through this area here. So that was good. The library, the outdoor reading garden, the supplies have been ordered. I don't know when they intend to break ground on that. But that project is now in motion. Home rule, we have a public hearing. So this will be the one that's required by Century Code on the 18th of July at 7 p.m. in the Armory. Obviously, the public is welcome to attend. We'll have to do a full reading of the charter at that point. We made some minor revisions to it at the last home rule meeting. And then we're going to have one more home rule meeting on the 25th to go over what was discussed at that meeting. And it's likely my intent, if we can make it happen, to get a knockdown vote on whether or not to recommend that it go to the county commission or not. So, kind of where that stands.
Heritage Center, that roof, any progress on that?
No, nobody, the guy hasn't shown up.
No.
So I don't know, at this point, I'd be comfortable just finding somebody else, anybody. Rain like this, it's,
Yeah, it rains every other day lately.
Right.
Yep.
We should put Kevin back in charge of that.
Tech did give us an estimate of 13, just under 14,000.
Yeah. At that point, it was the question, they wouldn't guarantee the work though.
That's the one I wouldn't guarantee.
So you can sign me up there with a cock and gun, I'll
Who else
have
is
at
there?
it.
I don't know, that's a good question, unless you go to Fargo or.
Well, that Jerry Gilbertson, or that Gilbertson that's advertising on the radio,
That's
is
the
that,
one that we
that's
tried to
the
get
last
in.
one that,
The only other one would be that group out of, where are they out of again, Tolna. I think they've got offices in Grand Forks and Tolna, they did the Hope Center up and stuff over there. Or Grand Forks, I think it's Grand Forks and Tolna, I can't remember what their name is though. But they do commercial roofing work too, so maybe they would be somebody to get a hold of, but I can't recall what their.
well, I heard that Gilbertson advertising that he's, he has somebody local now, Lance Reagan, who used to work for Tecta, you know, locally, so maybe that may help, you know, since he was on the mine hunt.
Yeah, maybe get a hold of Lance and see if he can come up and get it
But
estimate
like-
taken care of.
Like Commissioner Brown said last meeting, he said we need to get this taken care of, you know,
Well, get a little wet this morning.
yeah.
Can we make it official to put Kevin in charge of that project? I'd make a motion. Will you take it, Kevin?
I will, but I'm.
I know the bridge is gonna take you a lot of your time.
But, yeah, I'll work it in somehow, but.
Yeah, I don't know if we get a motion, because technically we
You're
don't
not
control
authority,
the
Right.
building, but I don't think there's anything wrong with us allowing Kevin to go and see if he can find somebody else. And then just contact, being in contact with Lucas or Kelly about it, and saying, hey, I found somebody.
Kelly's still.
Yeah,
I'm
I
gonna be
mean,
damn hesitant in improving their budget when it comes before us. Damn hesitant. I just probably won't do it. Because if they're not gonna get the roof fixed, I just don't understand it. We've been talking about this since a year ago in April.
Right. Will that new director, will she have regular hours over there, I would assume?
Yep.
Good.
And off the top of my head, I can't remember what those hours are,
Yeah.
and I apologize for that.
Well, that's, I think that'll, help the tourism that wants to come in for a tour and see a note on the door saying, call this number for a, schedule a tour. At least they'd have hours that somebody's gonna be there, it'll be open for,
Yeah, but like I say, I mean, even I was called to go get
I
a tour.
know,
I mean, it's
yeah.
not, I think almost everybody would, they
Yeah.
called this, so.
yeah.
Our numbers of people that have come through that museum have not changed with the lack of a director. It's just that it's a pretty big burden on everybody else who has a full-time job to,
You guys have a website for that building?
yes,
I would assume that you could post the hours on
Facebook
that.
page. Yeah, I know, yeah, we'll do that, put it on the door.
Yeah, the Facebook page, I look forward to those pictures every Thursday, the throwback Thursday pictures from the community, those are great.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know that Mike Gilbertson has been reached out to about 15 times, and he keeps saying that when he's in town, he'll come and look at it again, and
if that's the case, we just gotta find somebody else.
We'll move on.
It's just that simple. I mean, you got a director in place now, so hopefully.
Yeah.
I don't wanna put it on her shoulders though, because this problem was there way before she.
No, I know, but I mean, we have a contact person that's, there at least part-time, so hopefully, with the hours she has,
Right.
between everyone
You could show
looking at it, we
somebody
can
the problem.
spitball and find something to get taken care of.
I sure wish Kevin had
I'll
helped there.
at least start with talking to the new director and go from there.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. Just offer our assistance basically and say, hey, we can call people too and just try our best to find somebody here to take care of. And if I think it's been expressed from the commission in the past that if we gotta pay for it, we'll find a way to pay for it.
Yeah.
We'll take care of it because we just wanna get it taken care of. So, okay, anything else? Good to go.
that about covers it.
Ed?
Social service, not too much going on there, remember Indiana?
No, nothing particular.
Normal.
Pretty normal.
The jail is, we're looking forward for our state inspector to come back. Anticipated this month. And we'll see how that goes. We've got less than 60 days left on our closure notice, so I guess if we don't have an answer by first meeting in August, we're gonna have to come up with an alternative plan, so. But we're looking forward to him coming back this month.
on my front, County Housing Authority, nothing too crazy. Everything's kind of running there. We had our vacancy rates were looking pretty good overall. We had some questions from HUD on overall vacancy rates and stuff like that, where they had some concerns with it, but it's because we have a lot of, the main building we have over there has a lot of efficiency units, and they're really tough to rent, because people want a one bedroom, they don't like efficiencies. So, and they're really expensive to try to change two efficiencies into retrofit them basically, so that they have a separate bedroom and all that, so. But we had some, you could decommission certain rooms to get your vacancy rate where it needs to be, so we're gonna probably decommission a few of those efficiencies to try to set the standard and sort our vacancy rate, but everything's moving along pretty well over there. Always something interesting going on. Home rule, Lucas talked about. For Devil's Lake, we had an executive meeting a couple weeks ago now, I can't lose track of time. New director seems to be settling in well, making a lot of good contacts around the region. Actually, we're going to have our next full board and exec meeting out at Camp Crafton. We're working with the, I don't even know what his rank is, but the individual that oversees the UAS operations out there. There's actually been a lot of UAS work done at Camp Crafton and Camp Crafton South that I don't think even the general public knows that much about it. If I remember correctly, NASA was up here. They brought up a crew of 12 people or something like that. So they've been doing a lot of UAS work out there. So that's something where there could be spin-off industries out at the airport, where maybe you'd get little startups and stuff like that. So we're trying to make connections with them to try to do some things. So it would be nice to get out there and see what they're doing and get a little bit more oversight on or insight into it, and hopefully strengthen the bond there so we can continue to work forward with them, because I think that's a good in for the community in terms of possibly doing some small spin-off businesses. We're gonna have a quick exec meeting tomorrow to approve budgets, since he has to, he's new to the job, so he's learning. He's like, well, perhaps we gotta get our budget approved so that he can come in front of the commission as well as the city commission. So we're gonna have a quick meeting tomorrow morning to get that taken care of. I don't foresee there'll be any big changes there. I think it'll be pretty similar to this year's budget. Other than that, like I said, social services is moving along just fine, so I don't think I have much else. The only other question I would have is, in visiting with Candy about the budgeting procedures, would it be okay with everyone if we start the second meeting in July here a little early like we've done in the past, do like a 3:30, 4 o'clock start somewhere in there so we can knock some of these budgets out? At this point in time, I don't think we're planning on having an additional meeting, but we'll see how that second meeting in July goes, and we might have to put one in after that if we can't get everyone scheduled in, because you know how it is when we gotta see all these outside budgets, getting everybody on a particular date gets kind of difficult sometimes. And we have to be budgeted by August 10th. So it still gives us a little bit of time. If we can knock a lot of them out at that second meeting, we might still have to have a mop-up meeting in the end of July to kind of get some of those other, if we have any stragglers basically that we have to have come in here, we'll have to work with that accordingly. But so just be aware, second meeting won't be starting early. Don't have to start date yet, or start time, but it'll probably be between 3 and 4 o'clock depending. You start before, and then see how many people we can get in there, and it might shift it up a little bit. Maybe start 3:30. Yeah, we're already full, so if we can get some more people in on it, maybe we'll start a little earlier so we can knock them out. So just be there. Other than that, I have nothing else.
I do have one last thing that I forgot. The director of Dakota Prairie Community Action Agency, Barry London, is retiring. And so I don't know what exactly the succession plan is. I wanted to go in and talk to her to figure exactly out what's going on with that, but figured I'd let everybody know that.
Yeah, I had talked to him previously, and he said something about possibly at the end of the summer he was going to be looking at it, so. He's done a lot of good work there too, so. We're losing everybody. Oh my God, I tell you what. Okay, anything else to come before the good of the order, I guess?
Fish Meals on Boundaries is in 2 weeks.
Yes. Still looking for votes?
Yes.
Still looking for votes, and what date, what are the dates again?
14th to 15th.
14th, 15th.
Yeah. One of them water by, I hope by around 8, both days.
Where you headquartered that at, Paul?
I think it's, well, the big fence out on that peninsula.
Okay, I was just asking, somebody talked to me about it, I'll send in the right direction.
Know anybody with a boat, we'll talk about
Well, that helps, we just need more boats.
it. More boats and more people. Okay, anything else? Seeing nothing, I accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Right.
we are adjourned.